The cold iron bars split my world in two. In my hand, the divorce papers felt both weightless and as heavy as a stone. My fingers trembled. Across the table sat the man I had been married to for 10 years. David, the police chief of this city, dressed in a crisp uniform. He wore the detached expression of someone interrogating a stranger. 2 prison guards stood nearby, along with a few onlookers whose presence I couldn't read, whether they were here on business or to watch a spectacle. Their eyes lingered on me, some with pity, but most with disdain. I knew exactly what they saw, a faithless wife who had humiliated the police chief. To them, this was justice served. "Sign it," David said at last. His voice was stripped of warmth, nothing like the man who once held me and spoke in gentle tones. "Once you sign, we're done. You won't have anything to do with me again." I lifted my gaze to the face I had once adored. Now it was foreign and unfeeling. My throat tightened. I wanted to ask why he didn't believe me, why 10 years of love had become so worthless, but when I opened my mouth, the words dissolved into a choked sob. "David, are you really this cruel?" My voice broke, tears filling my eyes. "Those accusations are lies. Someone set me up. Can't you give me one more chance to explain?" "Explain?" He let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "The evidence is right in front of me. I'm a police chief. Evidence is everything. Do you really think a few words of denial will make me believe you?" A woman in plain clothes cut in, her tone sharp. "Chief Lee, why waste time on her? Make her sign already. A man like you shouldn't be dragged down by a woman like that." Another man chimed in, eager to echo her. "Exactly, she doesn't deserve you. Divorcing her is the best thing you could do." Their voices stabbed at me like knives. I looked to David, praying he would at least tell them to stop. Even a simple "don't speak of her that way." But all he said was, "Enough chatter." It wasn't defense, it was irritation at the noise. The chill spread through me. The pen in my hand might as well have weighed 1,000 pounds. "I won't sign." I set the pen down with a trembling hand. "I've done nothing wrong. Why should I divorce you? I'll wait for the truth to come out. For everyone to see I was framed." "The truth?" David leaned forward slightly, his eyes locked on mine, the corners of his mouth twisting. "Emily, stop lying to yourself. The truth is you betrayed me. Betrayed our home. As long as I'm chief, you'll never clear your name. Today, you'll sign, whether you want to or not." His voice carried authority and threat. I knew he had the power to force my hand. One of the guards stepped closer. "Emily, cooperate. Don't make this harder." The faces around me were a mix of coldness, disdain, and quiet glee. I felt like a bird trapped in a cage. Too weak to resist. 10 years of marriage, and to him it was worth less than forged evidence. "Fine, I'll sign." I drew in a shaky breath. Tears slipped free, splattering the papers, blurring the ink. "David, I'll divorce you, but listen to me. I have never betrayed you. One day you'll know the truth. And you'll regret what you did today." I gripped the pen and scrawled my name. Each stroke cut into me like a blade. When it was done, I dropped the pen on the table and refused to look at him again. David took the papers, glanced at them, and handed them to his assistant without expression. Applause broke out from the bystanders. "Finally, Chief Lee, you're free of her. Now you can start over. No more burden." Their clapping hurt worse than a slap. I bowed my head, tears spilling freely. David rose, straightened his uniform, and told the guards, "Watch her, don't let her cause trouble." Then he turned and walked away without a backward glance. His retreating figure shattered what was left of my heart. I slid down the cold bars until I was sitting on the floor, watching him disappear down the corridor. In my mind, I whispered again and again, "Emily, don't give up. One day you'll walk out of this place. You'll find the proof. You'll show David, and everyone who mocked you, how wrong they were." The prison lights were harsh and colorless, casting a chill over my skin. I didn't know how long I'd have to endure this, or when the truth would finally come to light, but I knew one thing: I couldn't give up. I wouldn't. When the guards led me back to my cell, tears still streaked my face. The cold concrete floor dug into me when I sat down, but I couldn't bring myself to move. All I could see was David's cold face and those merciless words. Memories slipped in, unbidden. Back then, David wasn't a police chief, just an ordinary officer. He'd go out on patrol in his simple uniform, and when he came home at night, he'd carry the faint scent of chalk. Later I learned it was from helping elementary school kids cross the street safely. We lived in a tiny single-room house, barely big enough for two. It leaked in winter and summer alike. Yet life had felt sweet. Every morning, I'd wake early to make him breakfast. He'd eat while grinning. "Shio, your stuffed pancakes are 100 times better than anything outside." After he left for work, I'd tidy the place, then go to the market, planning something delicious for dinner. Once, when I had a fever, David was off duty. He stayed by my bedside, checking my temperature, wiping my sweat, fumbling through making ginger tea. It was too spicy and bitter, and after one sip I wanted to gag. He rubbed his hands nervously. "Shio, please, just drink a little more, it'll make you sweat it out." His worried face made me laugh. I forced the tea down. That day, he even bought a watermelon, chilled it in cold water for hours, then scooped out the sweetest heart for me. "This is the best part," he said. "It'll help you feel better." Another time, on my birthday, I thought he had forgotten. He'd said the night before he might have to work late, but he came home early, holding a small cake with a few candles. "Shio, I'm sorry, I couldn't afford a big one. Don't be disappointed." My tears came instantly. It wasn't the size of the cake, it was knowing he'd saved half a month's cigarette money for it. We sat at the little table under the glow of a single candle and finished the cake. I can still taste it. He'd been poor then, but he loved me fiercely. Once, at the market, a vendor shorted me on vegetables and insulted me when I protested. David happened by, pulled me behind him, and said, "How can you speak to her that way? Do business honestly, apologize to my wife." The man backed down fast once he realized David was a cop. On the way home, David said, "Shio, don't argue with people like that. Wait for me, I'll handle it." Back then, I thought marrying David was the luckiest thing in my life. I believed we'd always be that happy. When his career took off, we'd move to a bigger place, maybe start a family, and build a good life together. But when he became police chief, everything changed. He came home later and later, sometimes disappearing for days. When I asked, he brushed me off. "Work's busy, don't worry about it." He used to tell me everything. Cases he cracked, thank you banners from citizens. But now, he barely spoke to me. If I brought up old memories, he'd snap, "That's in the past. Why bring it up?" I thought the pressure of his position was wearing on him, so I tried to understand. Cooking his favorite dishes, keeping the house spotless, waiting for him. I never imagined that what I'd get in return would be false charges, a jail cell, and a divorce paper thrust into my hand. The thought broke me, and I wept again. Linda, my cellmate, came over and patted my shoulder. "Girl, don't cry, what's done is done." I shook my head. "Linda, you don't understand. He wasn't always like this. He used to be so good to me." She sighed. "People change, especially when they get power. Don't drive yourself crazy, just stay alive, that's what matters." I knew she meant well, but the memories played in my mind like a film, every tender moment now a blade cutting deep. I couldn't understand how the man who once loved me so much could turn into this stranger. How could he trust forged evidence over the woman who'd stood by him for 10 years? The cell lights went out, leaving only a sliver of moonlight through the bars. I lay on the hard bed, restless, tears soaking my pillow. I asked myself in silence, "Emily, will you live to see the day the truth is revealed? Will David ever turn back and say, 'I'm sorry, I didn't know'?" But I refused to give up. I remembered his words from long ago. "Shio, no matter how hard it gets, don't give up. If we hold on, we'll make it through." His eyes had been so certain then. Now I would cling to that certainty. No matter how hard, I would wait for the day the truth would finally come. In the second half of the night, I drifted into a light, broken sleep. In my dreams, David and I were back in that tiny house. He was making ginger tea, buying me a little cake, smiling at me with warmth in his eyes. But when I opened my eyes, all I saw were the cold walls of the cell. The brief warmth vanished, leaving only an aching emptiness. During yard time the next day, I sat on a stone bench in the corner, my thoughts drifting back to when the rumors first began. David had been police chief for barely 6 months then, and we had just moved into the official residence the department provided. A bigger, brighter place than our old one-room flat, yet it never felt as warm as that tiny house had. The first person to whisper to me was Mrs. Thompson downstairs. One afternoon, I ran into her at the little market while buying soy sauce. She clasped my hand, her eyes darting with a conspiratorial glint. "Emily," she said in a hushed tone, "I need to tell you something, but don't be upset." I laughed lightly. "Mrs. Thompson, there's nothing you can't tell me. Go on." She glanced around, lowered her voice even further. "Mrs. Lee from the next building says she's seen a strange man coming to your apartment, late at night, too. Emily, you should be careful. David's a police chief now. You don't want to bring him trouble." I froze. "Mrs. Thompson, what are you talking about? There hasn't been any strange man in my home. I hardly leave the house except for groceries, and no one's been visiting me." She frowned. "Really? Because Mrs. Lee was very specific. A tall man, black coat, glasses." My chest tightened with panic. "Please, Mrs. Thompson, believe me, that's not true. Mrs. Lee must have made a mistake." She sighed. "I hope so, but Emily, gossip spreads fast. Be careful. Don't give people a reason to talk." After that, I noticed the neighbors' stares. Once, they'd greet me warmly in the hallways. Now, some avoided my eyes or offered a quick nod before turning away to whisper. Their looks said everything without words. At the market one morning, a vendor I'd bought from for years saw me approach and dropped her smile. When I asked the price of cabbage, she snapped, "Not selling to you. My vegetables are for decent people." Heat rushed to my cheeks, tears threatened. I lowered my head and fled. Hearing the murmurs and pointing fingers around me, back home, I called David, desperate to tell him. He answered impatiently, "I'm busy, we'll talk later." Before I could protest, he hung up. I stood in our bright, empty living room clutching the phone, feeling small and humiliated. That night when he came home, I hurried to meet him, telling him about the whispers and the market. I thought he'd hold me, reassure me, ignore them. "I'm here." Instead, he shrugged off his jacket onto the sofa. "All right, I get it. Stop overthinking. People will say what they want. As long as you've done nothing wrong, let it go." I looked at him. "But they're lying." "Can't you explain to them?" He frowned, his voice rising. "Explain? I'm a police chief, Emily. Should I argue with a bunch of nosy neighbors? Stop making this harder for me." His words stunned me. Tears welled up. "David, how can you say that? They're slandering me, and you're not defending me. You're blaming me for making trouble." Without meeting my eyes, he fetched a bottle of water, drank, and said, "I'm not blaming you. You're too sensitive. I'm tired. I need rest." After that, the distance between us grew. He came home later, shut himself in the study, barely spoke. At dinner, he answered in grunts, his eyes glued to his phone. One evening, I made his favorite braised pork, the dish that had always brightened his mood. I set it before him with a hopeful smile. "David, try this. Does it taste like before?" He glanced at it. No appetite. He put down his chopsticks and left the table. I stared at the dish I had labored over all afternoon, and tears dropped into the glossy sauce. I couldn't understand how a few baseless rumors had eroded 10 years of love. Why wouldn't David trust me? Each day, I told myself to wait. He'd come around, he'd remember who I was to him. But the whispers didn't fade, they multiplied. Soon, people were saying I'd been seeing that strange man for a long time, that I'd married David for money and status. The first time those words reached my ears, my whole body shook with rage. I wanted to confront them but held back, afraid of creating a scandal that might hurt David. I asked him again to help me stop the rumors. He said coldly, "If you don't want them talking, get out of the house and find a job. Stop sitting around giving them something to gossip about." The look in his eyes chilled me. That was the moment I knew, he was beginning to doubt me. The man who once defended and believed in me was gone. A wall had risen between us, invisible yet solid. And no matter how I tried, I couldn't reach him. Those days were a cage of whispers and his indifference. I'd sit alone in the living room until night fell, waiting for him, watching the dark windows across the complex. I asked myself over and over, how long can I live like this? When will the rumors stop? When will David believe me again? The guard's whistle cut through my thoughts, calling us back to our cells. I was still on the stone bench, staring at nothing, memories spinning. Linda tugged at my arm. "Come on, girl, if you don't move, they'll yell." I nodded, my legs heavy as lead, and followed her. Back in the cell, I leaned against the wall. My mind jumped to the day the forged evidence appeared. By then, the gossip had been festering for a month. David and I were like strangers, the air in our home frozen silent. That morning, David hadn't gone to work. He sat on the couch, his face dark and unreadable. I carried over breakfast and spoke softly. "David, eat something." He didn't answer, just gripped a white envelope so tightly his knuckles whitened. A chill ran through me. "David, what's wrong?" He looked up, and the hatred in his eyes pierced me. He threw the envelope onto the table. "Look at what you've done," hands shaking. I opened it. Photos spilled out. Pictures of a woman wearing my clothes, her hair like mine, clinging to a tall, bespectacled man in a black coat. They were at a hotel entrance, on a park bench, even at the gate of our apartment complex. The photos slipped through my trembling fingers and scattered on the floor. I knelt to pick them up, my breath ragged. "David, this isn't me. Look closely. The profile is different, and her left hand, remember the scar on mine, she doesn't have it." He let out a bitter laugh. "Emily, are you still lying? Those are your clothes, that's our building. Do you think I'm blind? The clothes are mine, but I never went out with him. Someone must have stolen them. Found someone who looks like me to take these pictures. David, please, believe me, stolen your clothes, a look-alike." He stood, towering over me. "Emily, could you make your lies any worse? Who would go through all that trouble? Do you take me for a fool?" Tears blurred my vision. I grabbed his sleeve. "I'm not lying. 10 years. David, how could I betray you? Remember when we lived in that tiny flat? You promised you'd always believe me. Did you forget?" He yanked his arm away. I stumbled and fell, pain shooting through my knee. "That was then. This is now," he snapped. "Emily, I must have been blind to marry you. I've kept my name clean all my life as a police chief, and you made me a laughingstock." I lay sprawled on the cold floor, my tears soaking into the tiles. "David, please don't say that. I'm innocent. You're the chief. You can investigate. You can find out who set me up. Just check. Please check." He crouched down, picked up one of the photos, and tossed it against my face. "Investigate? What's the point? The evidence is right here, Emily, from now on. Don't bring up the past. I'm sick of it." He rose, grabbed his coat, and headed for the door. I scrambled up and clutched at his sleeve. "David, don't go. Please listen to me. I didn't do it." He spun around, impatience burning in his eyes. "Let go. I don't want to see you again." With a violent jerk, he tore free. I lost my balance and went down again, this time hitting my head against the corner of the table. Pain exploded behind my eyes, leaving me dazed and reeling. He didn't even look back. The door slammed, leaving me on the ground with nothing but the scattered photos. Photos like knives carving into me. I knew the instant he saw them, his trust had died. 10 years of marriage had been destroyed by forgeries. Later I learned the pictures had been sent anonymously to the police bureau, along with a note accusing me of an affair and of taking money from another man. When David saw them, he was enraged. He didn't hesitate, didn't investigate. He simply condemned me. One night he returned with a document and threw it in front of me. "Emily, this is a confession. Sign it. If you behave and sign, I'll plead for leniency, maybe cut your sentence. If you refuse, I'll find a way to make you." I picked it up. It accused me of infidelity and bribery. Each line branded me like a curse. "David, I never did this. I won't sign. You can't force me. Force you. I'm giving you a chance. Don't mistake my mercy for weakness, Emily." I flung the paper to the floor. "I won't sign. Lock me up if you want. But I won't confess to something I didn't do. I'd rather die than admit to lies." His face went rigid with fury. "Fine. Don't sign. You'll see what happens." He stormed out. After that, he didn't come home for days. Alone in the empty apartment, I sat in fear and despair. I knew he wouldn't stop, but I couldn't surrender my innocence, not to a piece of paper. Soon after, men came to the apartment under the guise of an investigation. They tore through my belongings. leaving everything overturned. They asked endless questions, twisted and absurd, ignoring every answer I gave. I could see their true purpose: to corner me into signing, to fix the guilt on me. I sat on the floor among the wreckage of my own home, drowning in despair. Why did someone hate me enough to destroy me like this? Why would David, of all people, believe fabricated evidence without question? I remembered how he once told me, a police officer must stay calm, never condemn the innocent without truth, but those words had vanished. He believed forgeries and whispers over the woman who had shared his life for 10 years. That was the moment I knew we were finished. No plea, no explanation would ever reach him again. I was falling into a pit with no light, no hand to grasp, helpless. I could only watch as false evidence and his betrayal pushed me deeper. In the cell, the lights flickered against stained walls. I couldn't stop replaying the image of my home ransacked, and his final words, "Just wait and see." I knew he meant it. I just hadn't expected how fast, how ruthless he would be. 3 mornings later, before I had even gotten out of bed, came the knock at the door. My heart leapt with foolish hope. Maybe David had returned, maybe he'd thought it through, maybe he'd come to apologize. But when I opened the door, it wasn't David. 2 uniformed officers stood there, grim-faced. The taller one showed his badge. "Emily, right, we're from the city police. There's evidence you've been involved in adultery and bribery. You need to come with us." My body went cold. "You're mistaken, I've done nothing wrong. Someone framed me. My husband is David. Your chief, ask him, he knows I'm innocent." The shorter officer frowned. "Emily, we're acting on Chief Lee's orders. The evidence is solid. Cooperating is your best option." "David's orders," my voice cracked. "No, he's my husband. He wouldn't." "You're lying." The tall officer sighed. "We're not lying." The chief submitted the materials himself, signed and sealed. "We're only following orders. Please, don't make this harder." I staggered back into the living room as they closed in. My fear twisted into hatred. Hatred for whoever framed me, but even more for David, who had abandoned me so cruelly. "I won't go with you." I did nothing. "David, come out, face me." But no matter how I screamed, David never appeared. The officers exchanged a glance, then grabbed me by the arms. I thrashed and shouted, "Let go, I'm innocent." But I was no match for them. They dragged me outside. My eyes fell on the home I'd shared with David. The jacket he'd left on the sofa. Tears burned as I realized I might never return. They shoved me into the back of a police car. The handcuffs bit into my wrists, the metal cold and merciless. I stared out the window at the blur of streets, my mind hollow but for one thought: how could David do this to me? Was 10 years worth nothing? At the bureau, they led me into an interrogation room. Bare walls, a single table, and a plaque that read, "Leniency for confession, severity for resistance." The air was icy. A man in plain clothes sat opposite, pen poised. His face was stern. "Emily, tell me, when did you and this man start? How much money did he give you?" I lifted my head and forced the words out. "I've said it before, I've never been involved with him. It's fake. Someone forged the evidence. You can't rely on pictures alone. You have to investigate." "Investigate?" he sneered. "We already did." The man confessed, said you'd been seeing each other since last year. He even produced your chat logs and bank transfers. The evidence is clear. Stop denying it. Chat logs, bank transfers. My mind spun. I don't even know that man. How could there be chat logs, transfers? They must be forged. Show me. I want to see them. He slid a stack of papers across the table. "See for yourself. The chats have your photo, your username. The transfers show your bank account. What else is there to say?" I snatched them up. The messages were disgusting. Intimate words I had never spoken. The account number. Yes, it was mine. But I had never received those funds. Pointing at the pages, I shouted, "This is fake. The chats are fabricated. The transfers too. My card has never received this money. Check the bank records. You'll see, we've already checked," he said. "The bank records show the money went into your account and was later transferred to an anonymous one." "Emily, stop pretending. Just confess. It's better for you, and for Chief Lee." I stared at him. Despair hollowing me out. They had rigged everything. Even if I demanded an audit, The trail was already buried, they had decided my guilt before I ever spoke. And the hand guiding it all was the man I had once loved most. David. I sat motionless in the chair, words failing me. No explanation would matter. I was a lamb bound for slaughter, powerless to resist. The interrogation dragged on all day. They rotated in shifts, asking the same questions, hammering at me to confess. They withheld food when I was hungry, water when I was thirsty, rest when my body sagged with exhaustion, anything to break me, to force my signature on their fabricated confession. By nightfall, my head swam and my limbs trembled. That was when David finally entered, in his immaculate police uniform. He didn't so much as glance at me. Well, he asked the officer, has she confessed? The man shook his head. Chief Lee, she's still denying everything, stubborn. David crouched in front of me, his eyes stripped of any warmth, only cold contempt. Emily, what are you holding on to? Admit it now and you'll get a lighter sentence. Refuse, and don't blame me for what comes next. Tears slid down my cheeks, my voice was hoarse. David, you really want me to confess, to admit to something I never did, and carry that shame for life? His brow furrowed. Emily, this is your choice, last chance. Sign, or not. Looking at his frozen face, the last shred of hope inside me shattered. Even if I signed, he wouldn't forgive me. Even if I surrendered, there'd be no mercy. I shook my head. I won't sign. Even if it kills me, I won't confess to what I didn't do. David's expression hardened. He rose and said to the officer, if she won't sign, follow procedure. Send her to the detention center and prepare for trial. Without another glance, he walked out. Just as before, watching his back retreat, it felt like a blade cutting me open. I wanted to call out, to tell him once more I was innocent. But my voice failed. Soon 2 officers returned, hauled me from the chair, and marched me out. As we left the interrogation room, I glanced back at the cold, empty space that had devoured all my hope and happiness. In the transport vehicle, the night outside streaked past. Tears streamed down my face. I knew that from this moment, I had lost my freedom, my good name, and the man who once swore he'd love me to the end. I was a criminal now. A criminal delivered to prison by my own husband. Life in the detention center was worse than I had imagined. Everyone knew I was the police chief's ex-wife, arrested for adultery, and they despised me. Some even bullied me deliberately. At meals, they'd steal my food. At night, they'd leave the lights on so I couldn't sleep. Every day was fear and humiliation. Yet I refused to break. I whispered to myself, Emily, you can't fall. You must endure. Someday the truth will surface. Someday you'll walk free. Someday David will see how wrong he was. Less than 2 months later, I was sentenced. 3 years, when the judge read the verdict. I stood at the defendant's table and looked down at David in the audience. His face was blank, as if watching a play that had nothing to do with him. I didn't cry or protest. I knew resistance was useless now. Instead, I told myself silently, 3 years, I can wait 3 years, I will wait for the truth. They transferred me to the prison where I am now. Here, life is stricter. Wake, eat, work, sleep, like a machine. Worse was the way people treated me. At first, my cellmates ignored me. Their eyes filled with contempt. Brenda, a tall, broad-shouldered woman, constantly picked on me. One day at lunch, she snatched my steamed bun, tossed it to the floor, and ground it under her heel. Trash food for a trash woman who cheats on her husband. She sneered. I stared at the ruined bun. Anger and shame burning behind my eyes. I crouched to pick it up, but she stomped on my hand. What? Still want it? As long as I'm here, you'll never have peace. Linda, another inmate, stepped forward. Brenda, enough. We're all here to serve our time. Stop bullying her. Brenda glared. Stay out of it, Linda, or I'll deal with you too. I'm not afraid, Linda said firmly. Touch Emily again, and I'll report you to the guards. Brenda huffed but backed off. From then on, she stopped open attacks. But petty torments continued. My laundry accidentally falling in the dirt, my tools hidden so I'd miss work quotas and earn reprimands. I had no allies but Linda, so I endured. Each time I cried into my blanket, I told myself, Emily, don't break. One day you'll be free. One day you'll clear your name. One day they'll all know how wrong they were. Linda was kind. She'd been a small business owner before a bad counterfeit deal earned her 2 years. After hearing my story, she comforted me often. "Girl, you don't seem like the type to do wrong. I'm sure you're innocent. Don't lose hope. Good people will be vindicated." Once, I told Linda about David and our early life in the little flat. The pancakes, the ginger tea, the birthday cake, and the tears came again. Linda patted my hand. "Men can change. Power and money make them forget who they were. But don't despair. You can build a good life even without him." I nodded. Though my heart refused to let go, I sometimes wondered, what's David doing now? Does he think of me? Has he ever doubted the evidence, even for a moment? But then I'd shake my head. No, he sent me here himself. He'd never question the lies. The brightest days in prison were family visits. My parents, frail and aging, still rode the bus every month to see me. Each time I saw them, I cried, ashamed for making them suffer shame and worry at their age. My mother would hold my hands, weeping. "Shio, we know you're innocent. We believe you. Stay strong. Finish your term, and come home. We're waiting." My father, quiet but steadfast, always brought food. "Shio, don't worry about us. Take care of yourself in there. We'll manage." Seeing their lined faces, I silently vowed, "I will get out. I will find the truth. I will prove my innocence. I will make sure they never suffer for me again." Sometimes the guards would talk to me, asking if I'd changed my mind about confessing. I always answered firmly, "Officer, I didn't do it. I was framed. I won't confess." They would sigh, "Emily, I know you feel wronged, but the evidence is stacked against you. Denial won't help. Behave, earn a reduced sentence, and start over." I knew they meant well, but I couldn't give in. I couldn't let a lie destroy my name. I couldn't let my innocence be erased. Life in prison crawled by. Each day stretched like a century, but I never let go of hope. During work shifts, I'd secretly watch everything around me, searching for even the faintest clue. At night, before sleep, I'd replay every detail of the setup in my mind, hoping to remember something I'd missed. Sometimes the other inmates would gossip about the outside world. About David, some said he was thriving, that there was another woman beside him. Others said he'd cracked a big case and been praised again. Every time I heard his name, my feelings tangled together. I wanted him to live well. But I also longed for the day he'd realize his mistake and clear my name. One afternoon, a newcomer whispered that she'd heard David was in trouble, that an old case of his might be unraveling. My heart jolted. I pressed her for details, but she didn't know much, just idle talk she'd overheard. From then on, I listened even harder for scraps of news. Maybe, just maybe, that could be my only chance. Linda noticed my restless glances and tried to comfort me. "Don't worry, girl, good news takes time. Look, spring's here. The flowers are blooming outside. Things will turn around." I looked out the tiny barred window. Only a sliver of sky was visible. Yet in my mind I saw sunlight spilling over blooming fields. I nodded, letting hope fill me again. As long as I didn't give up, someday the truth would surface. Someday I'd walk out of this prison, free and vindicated. In my heart I whispered, "Dad, Mom, wait for me. I'll come home early. David, wait. You'll know just how wrong you were. And those who framed me, wait. One day, you'll pay for what you did." A warm spring breeze slipped through the small window, carrying the scent of the world beyond these walls, but unease coiled in my chest. Was that newcomer's rumor about David's trouble real? While working, I kept turning it over in my mind, pricking my fingers on the needle more than once. Linda noticed and told me to stop overthinking. But how could I? That rumor might be my only lifeline. About 2 weeks later, the prison buzzed with whispers. Guards gossiped about a major event outside. A woman's body had been found in an abandoned factory on the city's outskirts. At first, I dismissed it. Gossip floated through these walls daily. But after 2 days, I noticed the way the guards glanced at me, their eyes lingering, their murmurs hushed. One evening, as Linda and I folded laundry, she leaned close and whispered, "Girl, listen carefully. Don't let anyone else hear." I overheard 2 guards. "That body, They said it's connected to your case. The forensic report's already on its way to David, connected to my case. The shirt in my hand slipped to the floor as my heartbeat thundered. Linda, are you sure? She nodded, picking up the fallen laundry and brushing it off. They said the victim's clothes matched exactly what the woman in those fake photos wore, and they found something in her hand. A necklace, like the one you used to wear. My hand flew to my neck, years ago. David had given me a silver chain with a tiny moon pendant. I'd lost it once and mourned for days. Could the dead woman have been holding that very necklace? My pulse quickened. I gripped Linda's hand. Then the person who framed me is linked to her death. If they find her killer, they'll find whoever set me up. Linda nodded but sighed. It should mean that. But remember, David's the police chief. If he's still convinced you're guilty, even a forensic report might not sway him. Her words chilled me. David hadn't believed his own wife. Why would he trust a stranger's body? But I couldn't abandon hope. This was the first real lead in so long. Over the next few days, I strained to catch every rumor. One afternoon in the workshop, I overheard two guards talking. Did you hear? The forensic report went to Chief Lee's office yesterday. They say he looked furious. Threw a cup across the room. Really, what was in it that rattled him so bad? No idea. Just that the findings suggest something's off about Emily's case. My sewing machine clattered to a stop. Brenda shoved me. What are you spacing out for? Trying to get us yelled at. I ignored her. My heart raced. Proof my case was flawed. David had thrown a cup. Was he starting to doubt? That night, I tossed and turned. What would David do now? Would he reopen the investigation? Was the dead woman's killer the same person who framed me? And would he strike again to cover his tracks? Linda, disturbed by my restlessness, whispered, "Girl, get some sleep." The report's in his hands now. Even if he's not convinced yet, doubt has crept in, and once a seed of doubt is planted, the truth will grow. I nodded, but sleep didn't come. I remembered how meticulous David once was with cases. How he insisted on uncovering every truth. Back then, I used to tell him he was a good cop. How had he become so blind when it came to me? Did power really change a person so completely? 3 or 4 days later, a guard summoned me. Someone wanted to see me. My heart leapt. Was it David? Had he read the report and come to ask me questions? Walking to the visitor's room, my pulse hammered with nervous hope. But when I stepped inside, it wasn't David, it was my father. He looked thinner than last time, his hair whiter. His eyes reddened as soon as he saw me. Taking my hands, he said, "Shio, I have news. Outside, everyone's talking. They say that body from the factory. People think it's tied to your case. The forensic report proves you were framed." I gripped his hands tighter. "Dad, how do you know? Did he say anything?" My father sighed. "Mrs. Thompson told me. Her son works at the bureau. He heard about it and told her. As for David, I haven't seen him, but people say after reading the report, he's been holed up at home for days, hasn't even gone to work." Hope flared bright in my chest. If David had locked himself away, it meant doubt was gnawing at him. It meant my case might finally be unraveling. I squeezed my father's hands. "Dad, does this mean my case can be overturned? Does it mean I might be free soon?" He nodded, wiping his tears. "There's hope, Shio. Hold on a little longer. I'll keep asking around. As long as there's a chance, we won't give up. Your mother prays for you every day. She says when you're home, she'll cook you your favorite braised pork." Hearing the words braised pork, my tears spilled instantly. Back when I was home, whenever I was upset, my mother would make braised pork for me. David would always fight for extra servings, teasing that Mom's cooking put every restaurant to shame. But now, I hadn't tasted a home-cooked meal in so long. I hadn't seen my own home in what felt like a lifetime. When visitation ended, my father reluctantly let go of my hands, repeating over and over that I had to take care of myself. He promised to bring news the moment he had it. Watching him walk away, his shoulders stooped, I swore silently. I would endure. I would wait for the day the truth was revealed. I would go home and eat my mother's braised pork again, back in the cell. I shared my father's words with Linda. She beamed with genuine joy for me. "See, girl, I told you good news would come. The forensic report is out. David's bound to reopen your case. You'll be out soon." I nodded, hope swelling inside me. I glanced at the narrow square of sky beyond the bars. It seemed brighter now. The report felt like a shaft of light, cutting through the darkness of my prison life and the fog clouding David's mind. Whatever obstacles lay ahead, I would not give up. The day of truth was coming. Since my father's visit, I clung to that hope. Even Brenda's occasional bullying barely bothered me. During meals and chores, Linda made casual conversation with inmates from other cells, trying to pick up any scraps of news. About a week later, while I was in the workshop stitching clothes, I saw a guard enter with 2 uniformed men. I recognized them immediately. Mark and Kevin, 2 of David's trusted deputies. They scanned the room, then spoke quietly with the guard before walking toward me. "Emily," the guard said, "you need to come with them. They have questions." My heart leapt into my throat, my hands went slack, the needle and thread slipping to the floor. Was this about the report? Had David sent them? My legs felt weak as I followed Mark and Kevin down the corridor, my mind racing. Were they going to ask about the necklace? Had David already started a new investigation? They led me into a small meeting room, bare except for a table and a few chairs. Mark gestured for me to sit, then laid a folder on the table. "Emily," he said, "we need to confirm something with you. Do you remember a silver necklace you once had? The one with a moon-shaped pendant?" I nodded quickly. "Of course I do. David gave it to me years ago. I lost it somehow, and I was heartbroken for days." "Why, did you find it with the dead woman?" Mark and Kevin exchanged a glance. Mark said, "Yes. The forensic team found the necklace clutched in her hand. Analysis confirms it's yours, and the clothes on her body. They were traced back to a purchase you made 3 years ago at the department store. You reported them missing back then, right?" "Yes." I jumped to my feet, my voice trembling with excitement. "I told everyone those photos were fake. Someone stole my clothes and necklace, found a woman who looked like me, and set me up. Now you have proof. Please, Mark. You have to clear my name." Kevin exhaled heavily. "Emily, sit down. We're working on it. But there's another problem. The woman's identity has been confirmed. Her name was Melissa, a migrant worker who came here 3 years ago to work at a beauty salon, and through our investigation, we discovered she was close to someone you know." "Someone I know." I blinked, stunned. "Who?" Mark opened the folder and slid a photograph toward me. "Do you recognize her?" I studied the picture. A young woman in a beauty salon uniform, smiling brightly. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. I frowned. "She seems familiar, but I can't remember where I saw her." "Who is she?" "Her name is Sarah," Mark said quietly. David's cousin." "David's cousin." My stomach dropped. "Sarah. I remember now. I met her once when David took me to his hometown. She'd asked me to teach her how to cook." "How could it be her? What's her connection to Melissa?" Kevin replied. "We found that Sarah helped Melissa get the job at the salon. They lived together and were very close. Records show that 3 years ago, the time you were framed, Sarah transferred a large sum of money to Melissa. We believe Sarah recruited her to impersonate you in those photos and set you up." Shock crashed over me. David's own cousin. I recalled Sarah's polite smile, and fury burned beneath my grief. Why would she do this to me? I never wronged her." Mark shook his head. "We're still investigating her motive, but there's a bigger issue. Sarah is missing. We went to her apartment. No one was there. Her boss said she hasn't shown up for days. We suspect Melissa's death is tied to her. She may have silenced Melissa and gone on the run." Just then, the meeting room door creaked open. David stepped in. He looked nothing like the proud, polished chief I once knew. Unkempt beard, bloodshot eyes, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. Seeing me, he froze. His gaze was heavy with guilt, sorrow, and something like fear. Mark and Kevin immediately stood. "Chief Lee." David nodded and said nothing at first. Then he approached me, crouched, and met my eyes. His voice was rough, barely more than a whisper. "Shio, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I should have believed you. I should never have sent you here." Seeing him so broken made my heart ache even as anger flared. I turned my head aside. What good is sorry now? I've been here all this time. Who will repay what I've lost? David's tears slipped free. Tears I'd never seen from him before. He gripped my hands. I know it's late, but I'll make it right. I've already reopened your case. Once we find Sarah, you'll be cleared, and I swear, the ones who framed you will pay. I couldn't hold back my own tears. Why now, David? When I begged you before, why didn't you trust me? The evidence was fake. You couldn't see that. He lowered his head, voice breaking. I was arrogant. I'd just become chief. My pride was everything. I thought you'd humiliated me, made me a joke. I didn't want to face the truth. I wanted you gone. He paused, then pulled a paper from his pocket and handed it to me. This is the forensic report. It says Melissa died about 2 weeks ago. She was strangled, with multiple injuries. The necklace she held carried both her fingerprints and Sarah's, and under her nails, the fibers matched the dress you lost. I held the report, tears blurring the ink. Proof, real proof. I looked at David. What now? When will you find Sarah? When will my name be cleared? David answered firmly. I've sent every available officer to find her. If she's in the city, we'll bring her in. I've already requested a retrial. Once we have her testimony, your case will be overturned. Please, just a little more time. Suddenly Kevin's phone rang. He answered, listened, then his face drained of color. Hanging up, he looked at David. Chief Lee, bad news. We found Sarah's body by the riverside, strangled. She was holding a note that said, I'm sorry, Emily. I lost my head and framed you. What? David lurched to his feet, pale as ash. Sarah is dead. How? How could this happen? Shock froze me. Sarah, dead. Was there someone else behind all this? Someone silencing her? David staggered, nearly falling. Mark caught him. David's eyes, wide and desperate, met mine. Shio, I'm sorry. With Sarah gone, the trail might be broken. I don't know if I can clear you now. His despair struck me like ice. If Sarah was dead, had my last chance died with her, how long would I remain trapped? Would I ever reclaim my freedom? Just as despair hollowed my chest, Mark spoke up. Chief Lee, Emily, don't lose hope yet. We searched Sarah's apartment and found a diary. It details the plot against Emily, and her phone. There are recordings of her and a man planning this, him promising her money to frame Emily. We're tracking his identity now. Once we find him, we'll know who orchestrated everything. David's head snapped up, a spark flaring in his tired eyes. Really, that's incredible. Find out who that man is. Quickly, we need his identity as soon as possible. Relief rushed through me. Thank God, there was still a trail to follow. If they could uncover the man behind Sarah, we would know who orchestrated my downfall. My case could finally be overturned. David turned to me. Shio, I promise you, no matter the cost, I'll get to the bottom of this. I'll clear your name. When you're free, I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. Will you let me? A storm of emotions swirled inside me. Hope, anger, longing, and doubt. I didn't know if I should trust him, or if he might hurt me again, but for now, I had no choice. All I could do was wait for him to uncover the truth. I nodded slowly. All right, I'll wait, but listen to me, David. If you disappoint me again, I will never forgive you. He nodded firmly, conviction hardening his voice. I understand. I won't let you down again. Shio, hold on a little longer. Soon, very soon, you'll be cleared. I looked at him, my heart a fragile mix of anticipation and unease. I didn't know what would happen next, or who that man truly was. I didn't know when my case would be overturned, but I knew one thing: I couldn't give up. As long as even the faintest hope remained, I would wait. For the day the truth finally came to light, and for the day I would walk free again. Well, that's all for today's story. If you like this video, please subscribe. We will continue to update more exciting stories and look forward to seeing you next time.